Nightlord and Lowtek will be giving a presentation on RFID at this conference, and Nightlord's going to show me some of the different hardware he's brought along. I see he's got a whole lot of different examples of RFID.
Yep. These are all ultra high frequency tags. They run at 925 megahertz.
Now, are these all passive?
Yes, these are all passive. I do have an active one right here.
Aggressive. And would you explain to the audience what the difference is?
Passive doesn't have power on it, so it waits for the reader to get within range, and then that actually powers it, sends the data back.
And basically, the radio waves induce a current into it, and it gets power from the radio waves.
Electromagnetic field, and then the reader has in its antenna, it takes that bounce back and then interprets it. And then the active transponder is the same thing as a passive transponder, except for it has power built in.
You usually get better range with those.
Yes, you get much more range, but they don't last nearly as long.
But the lifespan on that, we're still talking like
5 years. Yeah, 5
years. Long time.
And this specific one has internal power inside of it, so you can't get it out unless you crack the thing open, but you risk damaging the unit that way.
Gotcha.
And then we also have, well, these are a bunch of UHF smart labels.
You got it all on UHF.
Yeah. So this
With our Yankovic reference.
Yeah, I know. So this is, I think we even have no, we don't have the inlay, but this is Avery Dennison RFID smart label, and that's also ultra high frequency. And then we have these, which are
ID cards?
Yeah, they are ISO 14443 standard proximity cards that run the MyFair standard. So it's a proprietary encryption standard from Philips. So that's what these are.
Cool.
And then I have with me here this is the Open PCD, it's called. It's the RFID reader, and it reads the MyFair cards that we have here, these ones. It reads these, and it also reads like the passports. This will read the RFID enabled passports globally. It'll also read most transit system cards overseas, because MyFair is the one that's mostly used over in Europe and in Asia. The first place it was implemented was in Korea, so it's used all over the place.
Have you tested much with using the Faraday cage to keep the signal in?
The Faraday cage works. That's one of the only ways you can do it. You can use tinfoil, but you can only use it on these, the UHF, and the high frequency. This is at a different frequency.
The lower frequencies it doesn't?
The low frequency it does not.
It passes right on through.
Exactly. But the Faraday cage is the way to block the RF signals from your reader. It won't access the tags, but it doesn't take much for it to power. Even if you say you had like the passport wallet with the cage, wired in, even if it's cracked open, you'll be able to read it if you're in range. And I've even heard, and I know he's heard, that if it's propped open at a certain angle, it'll actually amplify the signal, so you can read it from farther away.
So unless it's fully closed.
Yeah, my understanding it can act as like a parabolic antenna, and where if you said you talked about in some cases it'll actually boost the signal. If it acts as a parabolic antenna, I would see how that would happen.
I don't know. I just heard it. We haven't had a chance to test. We haven't been able to get a hold of an RFID pass.
Well, I've seen parabolic shaped antennas before, like putting on wireless routers that will actually boost the signal in one direction, because it basically makes it unidirectional.
Right.
I can see the exact same thing happening with a Faraday cage that's improperly shielded.
It's that concept, because you're taking that frequency that normally would be blocking, and because it's cracked open, it's actually magnifying that area. So it's kind of like taking a light with a bunch of mirrors, as a bad example, but it's bouncing around in there. So instead of getting normal, regular read if it's open, with it closed like that, like you're talking about, it's going to get more bounce back. So that signal's going to bounce in there, because the way these tags are working is that, if you can see in here, there's a small chip inside there. Okay, and then surrounding the rest of this tag is this antenna, and this is working on the principle of induction, which is the same principle that all our power transformers and stuff like that work on. So,
unlike Sherlock Holmes, who works on the principle of deduction.
But it's true. So basically, that's what's going on. The signal's coming out. So you're sending a carrier wave signal, which, depending on what type of frequency you're wanting to read, this is going to be 925 to 928 megahertz frequency, but that's going to come out to here, and this is going to be impedance, so it's gonna be in tune with what's coming out at 925 to 928 megahertz. So when that happens, it charges this antenna, because it's a coil. The magnetic field of the antenna interacts with this, energizes the magnetic field on here, which thus gives you current and power, charges that chip to say, hey, my chip is this ID number, and then bounces back in its magnetic field. And so you basically got a coupling of magnetic fields, and then you've got the processors and chip which decode the information that's being coupled back.
But they're finally getting to the point where they can make all these cheap enough to where it's become practical to put them in products.
Actually, a roll of 1,000 of these only costs about $25.
That's not too bad. I know Walmart and other companies are pushing to get like all stuff.
This is what they're pushing. This is what they're pushing, is the ultra high frequency.
Now, how long ago did they come down that cheap?
Within the last couple of years.
Yeah, because the magic price point was 5 cents, was a nickel. And once it hit that point, then people like Walmart and other places started looking at Sirius as inventory tracking.
Alright, what else? Anything else you want to show?
Yep, I do actually. This is the most interesting thing we have. This is called the Open PIC, or the Open PICC, and this is actually an RFID tag emulator. You can sniff data with this, RFID data, you can sniff it with this, and you can also replay RFID data with this. So if you were to read a tag, or read a badge, or read a passport, or read a credit card, or read anything, if you can get that data back to you in a usable form, you can put that in the memory of this unit, and it'll actually replay it like it's the actual tag.
Cool.
So then you can fool readers with this. And right now it doesn't do that because I'm losing my term. Help me out. I'm sorry. That's my
The babies on TV distracted me. You know what you were talking about.
Anti-collision. The anti-collision for multiple tags, it hasn't been addressed in the current firmware, so it can't do the emulation yet. But it was designed. That's what it's designed to do. But currently it does do the RFID sniffing, so you can sniff reader data, and we're going to show that tomorrow.
Awesome. And the presentation will most likely be on WheelPig's site within a few months, probably.
Well, we're going to tape it tomorrow, so...
You going to tape it tomorrow? You go put it out on Informaticon?
I don't know what we're going to do with it exactly. We gotta figure out a way to capture it.
Well, we know how to
if you all capture it,
video,
and if you all get it to me, I will host it in a day. Guaranteed.
Nice. Oh, and the other cool thing that we also have too are blank printed circuit boards for each one of the units that people can buy.
Cool.
So they just get the components, and they can either send it off and have it, because it's all surface mount, so they can have somebody solder it for them, or they can attempt to do it themselves.
Yeah, surface mounting.
But it's cheaper. It's cheaper to buy one from me than it is to order one, because all this stuff comes from Germany. It was made by a couple guys, the Open PCD team, and they're actually members of the Chaos Computer Club. And they're actually the lead developers on the Open Moco project as well. So I'm sure everybody's heard of Open Moco. So
actually, I'm not familiar with it.
You haven't heard of the Open Moco, the iPhone killer, man?
Open source Linux-based smartphone.
Yeah.
No, this is something I want to look up.
And the whole, look for.
This is the reason I go to these cons. There's a lot of stuff I don't know.
Open Moco Ninja.
Yeah, if you do like a Google or YouTube for Moco Ninja, there's a bunch of cool videos from the actual in-house development, and it should also come up some other videos from the Chaos Communications camp that happened this summer, and there's a lot of cool stuff because they actually were talking about the Open Moco there.
Or you can go,
good stuff.
And if you want to find out more about this stuff, you can go to openpcd.org, and that's their website, and it's got links to their store if you want to buy a working unit, or if you want to get tags or anything else that they have there. They also have a wiki with a bunch of information about these. There's not a ton of information out there, but that's one of the reasons why we're doing this, is to try to get more people to develop, so there's more information. But yeah, that's pretty much it.
Well, thanks, guys.
Thanks.